A long, long time ago.
I would like to take a moment to talk about self-reflection. It is often motivation for our greatest works of art, but sometimes even the mediums of art we use need to reflect for themselves. Take for instance, Las Meninas, a painting about painting. Or how about the song about songs playing right now?
Inside the day, the music died.
Or photos of photography, or drawings about drawing, or poems about poetry. And then there's film. For almost as long as film has been in existence, films about film have been a cinematic staple. From Sherlock Jr. in 1924 to Singing in the Rain in the 50s, all the way up to this year, films have portrayed many aspects of filmmaking and cinema to make reflection on the medium. Although there are literally hundreds of examples of these films about film, I would like to focus specifically on four: 8½, Adaptation, Inglourious Basterds, and Hugo, and how they portray aspects of cinema to make social commentary on the filmmaking process, the movie industry, audiences, and film itself. Let's go. Starting with the oldest of these four films, Federico Fellini's classic 8½, was directed in 1963 during the height of the French New Wave. It follows fictional director Guido Anselmi as he balances the creation of his newest science fiction film with multiple problems in his personal life. Guido always exercises complete control, interacting with his crew as the auteur as opposed to treating them as fellow collaborators. This behavior is obviously adverse to his crew, but it also, as critic Ted Perry notes, causes him to become inexorably separated from people because he treats them as images, as objects, as things he will use and turn into celluloid. His unwillingness to open up ends up giving him more conflicts, and vice versa, his inability to connect with his crew practically renders him unable to produce his film. This culminates at the end of the film when the producers organize a surprise press conference. Unable to handle the pressure, he crawls under the table and shoots himself in the head. In the following dream sequence, Guido is finally seen directing the film, but gives up his microphone to join a circle of his crewmates, showing that his suicide actually serves as the symbolic killing of the auteur. Here, the filmmaking process becomes therapeutic as it forces him to change as a person, literally coming true at the end when he is spiritually transformed into an 8½-year-old boy. While 8½, cautions against self-centered authorship, Adaptation focuses on the outside influences that also hinder the creation of art. The film was written by Charlie Kaufman and based off the book The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean. The film, however, follows Charlie and his fictional twin brother Donald in a self-reflexive account of Charlie's inability to adapt the novel, instead turning it into a fictional thriller of Orlean's affair. Originally, Charlie tries to stay true to the novel.
Yeah, I just don't want to ruin it by making it a Hollywood thing, you know? It's like I don't want to cram in sex or guns or car chases.
But his original idea is met with resistance every step he takes.
And why the fuck are you wasting my 2 precious hours with your movie?
As bad as this is alone, his inability to write a successful script is matched with his brother's quick completion of his own script, The Three.
Here's the twist. We find out that the killer really suffers from multiple personality disorder, right? See, he's actually really the cop and the girl.
Anyone could tell that this idea is ludicrously cliché and unrealistic. However, The Three goes on to become loved by everyone who reads it. Their praise for such an obviously absurd script satirizes the industry's creative austerity and, as critic Peter Marks puts it, depicts Hollywood as an environment locked into the replication of the formulaic. In the end, Charlie gives up on his idea and discovers Susan's secret affair. As he and his brother investigate it, the remainder of the film includes all the cliches Charlie originally wanted to avoid. Ironically, Kaufman turns Adaptation into another example of the cliched films he's criticizing. But by doing so, he creates a stream of absurdities that threaten to deteriorate it into farce, challenging the audience to wake up to Hollywood's cliched nature. Another film that challenges the audience in an even harsher light is Inglourious Basterds. This World War II epic, directed by Quentin Tarantino, is about a fictional task force of Jewish American soldiers who are sent out to do one thing and one thing only:
killing Nazis.
The film ends in a German cinema where leaders of the Nazi Party and the Bastards are gathered to watch a German propaganda film, Nation's Pride. Nation's Pride is an exaggerated account of Friedrich Zoller's standoff against 300 American soldiers. Similarly, however, Inglourious Basterds is a hyper-violent film which tops Tarantino's own list with 396 deaths. To audiences, Nation's Pride might seem like an outrageous and harmful retelling of history, but Tarantino is showing that Inglourious Basterds is not so different. Tarantino's film is just as much an American propaganda film as Nation's Pride is a German one. We might condemn the Nazis' utter enjoyment of Nation's Pride, but this same mentality is echoed toward the Nazis by the tone of Inglourious Basterds. In addition, with its over-the-top spaghetti western style, Tarantino's film is also trying to elicit laughs from the audience. Tarantino uses these parallels to force the audience to compare themselves to the Nazis and also to examine their own enjoyment of violence. For, as critic Ben Walters shows, only a thoughtless viewer will not see him or herself reflected in shots of Hitler cackling as he watches Americans being slaughtered in Nation's Pride. Although films about film have been used often to make social commentary, they are also commonly used to celebrate the medium for what it is. Hugo, directed by Martin Scorsese, is about a young boy in the 1930s who works and lives in a train station clock tower. With the help of a girl named Isabel, he fixes an automaton whose message reveals that Isabel's godfather is actually early cinematic legend George Méliès. Through its story, the film shows many old clips from the beginning of cinema. In the middle of the film, Hugo sneaks Isabel into her first movie, Harold Lloyd's silent comedy, Safety Last. Later on, the two find a book about early cinema in the library, and when they read it aloud, the pages come to life to show many old clips, including A Train Arrives at the Station and Méliès' A Trip to the Moon. In addition to these clips, however, Hugo also pays homage to the beginning of cinema through its indirect allusions. The film's set and cinematography specifically reference A Train Arrives at the Station. The scene in which Hugo hangs from the clock hand mirrors that of Lloyd from Safety Last. And the clock at the top of the station, a large white circle in the sky, represents the moon from A Trip to the Moon, serving as Hugo's literal home and Méliès' cinematic one. The presence of these films in Hugo's life, both literally and symbolically, point to the dual-layered influence of film on society, once as a physical form of its period, and once as the lingering effect it sustains until today.
A long, long time ago.
From the process to the result, from the makers to the viewers, these four films show the multitude of ways self-reflexive cinema can be used to make social commentary on and celebrate film. Films about film offer a unique inside look to the institution and challenge standard viewpoints of the medium. They may take a little more effort to watch, analyze, and appreciate, but the lessons they have to teach are unparalleled. So the next time you see a film willing to take on its own medium, just follow its lead and reflect.